head. It's running in my head. La 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 la. La 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 la. Don't fear the reaper. It's getting in my head. Na 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 na. So I got an incredibly, horribly disappointed where I was given tribute to my dad and saying how much I missed him and loved him and cared for him. To which someone snarkily replied, "Well, that's why last night you were talking about how your dad used to beat you." Okay, first of all, I know a lot of people don't understand the complications of being in an abusive relationship with their parents. But it doesn't mean that we didn't have good times. It doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy his company most of the time. In fact, all of the abuse happened while I was a child. It didn't happen when I was an adult, except for my mother. She was very mentally abusive. But that doesn't mean just because they did abuse me and hurt me deeply inside and left this huge hole in my heart, it doesn't mean that I never loved or cared for my parents. It doesn't mean that I can't mourn for my parents. Do you know what unconditional love is? I think people nowadays really need to learn what unconditional love is. You know, and you know, I can say this as a mother and a child. It doesn't matter what your parents do to you. You're still their child, and you're still going to love your parents no matter what they do to you. And I know this from my mom also, because her father used to be very abusive toward her. He was an alcoholic. My grandpa, which is on my thumb, that's the symbol for my grandpa. And he was very abusive toward her. He wasn't ever abusive to me. All I saw was this loving, kind man from Edward Quinlan. But my mom saw the alcoholic side of him, the abusive side of him. And that's one thing my parents had a problem with. They had a problem with alcohol abuse. My mom had a problem with popping pills. But that doesn't mean that I would stop loving them and hate them. You know, it's like I can't win in a scenario. You know, when I was mad at my parents for what they did to me, it was like, oh, you're such a horrible daughter for saying that about your parents, even though I was talking about something that I legitly experienced. But that doesn't mean that I would stop ever loving them, you know, because I understand that they too were suffering from mental illness. And they were suffering from addiction, and they themselves need understanding and loving, you know. And it took me after they died to forgive them. It took me after they died to let it go and realize and just focus on the good times we had and not the bad times we had, you know. It affected me, it traumatized me in a lot of ways, it hurt me horribly, but at the same time, they're my parents. They're the ones who brought me into this world, and even though they did horrible things, I still have to give them credit for bringing me into this world. And all the good times I did have did mostly come from my father. You know, he used to watch sci-fi with me, and watch movies with me, and we'd listen to old, classic rock together. You know, REO Speedwagon, Leonard Skinner, Def Leppard, Kiss, Aerosmith. We used to go to movies and concerts together, you know, and I miss him dearly. And I don't think that's going to go away, that missing him. And that, like, want to see him again, and that want to get his bear hug. He had such a wonderful bear hug. And I know last night I was crying over the things my parents were doing, but that's normal to cry over that. It's normal to be sad, and it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to mourn your parents even if they were abusive. It's okay to feel love for your parents even though they were abusive. Because they're your parents at the end of the day. And I forgive them for what they've done, as I know they forgive me for what I've done. I dream about my parents, and I'm not, like, every night I dream about them. And it's this continual dream where they're moving and I'm moving, but we're together. And then there's always, like, food in the kitchen. Like, my dad's, like, always cooking in these dreams, and I'm always eating his food in these dreams. And it's like, I miss the good times. I miss being able to, sit down with my parents and, like, and this is me as an adult, have a joint with them and just sit down and, like, talk about movies. I miss watching Doc Martin with my mother. When my mother was high on marijuana, she became a great person. I'll just say that. She was the real Betty. Not that mentally ill Betty that needed therapy. And I knew that. With all the psychology I've taken and all the work experience I have with my psychology, I knew that. And yeah, I was angry at them. Yeah. Doesn't mean that I stopped loving them. And I find it so sad that this world can't seem to decipher the fact that you can be abused and still love that person at the same time. It's a weird dynamic, but it is a very normal dynamic for people who are like me. And I can mourn like everyone else can mourn for their parents. And it's very invalidating and dismissive to come to someone and tell them they can't mourn or they can't remember happy moments because they were abused, and call that person a liar, and without any proof. It's just an assumption. Assumptions are not truth. Accusations are not truth. Conjecture is not truth. And just because you think it doesn't mean that it's true either. What is true is how I feel about my parents. What is true is that I do very much miss them, and I would have done anything to reconcile. If you're having a bad relationship with your parents and they're still alive, I'm begging you to reconcile. Because you don't want to break up with your parents and wake up after they passed and be like, regretting everything, right? And questioning everything. And asking, did I do the right thing? Did they do the right thing? You know? It's just best to just love unconditionally. While setting, you know, the boundaries that you need to protect yourself. But it doesn't mean that I don't love my parents and I don't remember the good times. And I didn't enjoy the good times, because I did. When it was good, it was horrifying to go through. This constant tug and pull of your heart. And I understand that it's a cycle. You know, but like, I'm not gonna lie about how I feel. And I'm not gonna lie that I haven't been mourning, because I have. Just so people can feel like I'm not lying. Because I really don't give a fuck if you think I'm lying or not. It doesn't fucking matter. Everything I said is 100% the truth. Everything I say is 100% real. And I know there's a lot of people out there that understand exactly where I'm coming from, because they've gone through similar things. Now, there's other people who've had abusive parents and they want nothing to do with them. And they hate them for the rest of their life. Me, I'm not that type of person to do that to people. I have the capacity in me to forgive and move on. You know, it says in the Bible, if you do not forgive others for their trespasses, God will not forgive you. So, it's pretty much ordered by Jesus Christ for you to forgive others. And it's ordered by Jesus Christ to give people mercy and understanding. And that's what I apply to my life. That's how I do things. Like, I tell people all the time that I forgive them. You know, I get apologies a lot from people, and I just automatically forgive them. Because that's the right thing to do, is to forgive and forget and move on and not remind someone of their trespasses after they repented and moved on. That's the kind thing to do. You know, the nasty, cruel thing to do is keep reminding someone of their past, even if they repented, even if they learned from their mistakes. And I honestly don't care if people think I'm lying. I just don't care, frankly, because I know my truth. I know what I'm saying is the truth. It's my life. I live it every day. And if it's too complex for you to understand, maybe you shouldn't be watching me. Because this is coming from my own perspective of how I feel, how I live my life. My perspective. My perspective is my parents were sick. And I was very angry at them for a very long time over it. But I've forgiven them. And I just remember the good times, yo. Yesterday I was very emotional. I'm always like the most emotional and hormonal right before my period. You know, that's, you guys should fucking put it on a clock, you know, just track it, right? My cycle. Because then you'll know exactly when Shannon's probably gonna cry or rage or vent. Because I need to get it off my system. You know, I needed to get that off my system. How hurt I was by people and how damaged I've been by people. It doesn't mean that I stopped loving them or caring for them. Like, I've told you guys before, I still love Chris. And I still care for Chris. And I would never hurt him. Even though he hurt me very bad by cheating on me with my best friend. But I still love him. I still care for him. I still love my baby's daddy. You know, I still love and care for Douglas. That's never gonna go away. Once I love someone, I will always love them. But sometimes they're not good for you, and you have to walk away. You know, sometimes people are meant to be in your life for seasons. You know, maybe not a lifetime. And they serve their purpose of whatever God wants them to serve it with. And my parents were in my life in certain seasons. You know, when my dad was away from the influence of my mother, he was the best man ever. He didn't feel controlled where he had to lash out on his children. And I know people don't understand this. And I understand why you wouldn't understand it. Because you didn't live that life. But to assume things and to put assumptions out there and to say I'm lying is completely dismissive and invalidating.
It's gaslighting.
It is gaslighting. Thank you. It's gaslighting.
Yep.
And I know it's complicated for people because of how my emotions are to understand me. Because I have such extreme, intense emotions. I can't help it. I'm borderline personality disorder. It comes with the territory, these intensive emotions. And they think just because you display intense emotions, it means that you have hatred in your heart. And that's not true. That's not true at all. It's just how my brain works. You know, I can't, like, I try to tell people this who actually know me. Just ignore the emotion that you're seeing, okay? Ignore the emotion you're seeing because I can't help it, okay? But listen to the words. You know, don't look at the emotion. Listen to the words. And I know that's very complicated for people nowadays. They have a hard time nowadays to comprehend words. They look at the emotion first before they listen to the words. And I get that. But my emotions are what they are. It's something I cannot control. And it's just, I feel what I feel at that time, you know? I don't know why it's so difficult to know that you love your parents, regardless of what they've done to you. I don't know why it's so difficult. You know, you act like you were never spanked. You act like your parents never said an ill word to you or anything. Like, are you gonna forever hate your parents because they've done something bad to you? I just don't understand that line of thinking. You know? And I've said this, I don't know, a million fucking times, that I've been so abused that I normalize abuse. And I do. I do. It's a serious fucking problem of mine. But at the same time, I love. And I'm not gonna lie who I love. And I'm not gonna lie about how I feel at the time. And I'm not gonna hide that I'm upset over the shit that happened to me when I was a child. But to assume that I couldn't love my parents, I couldn't care for my parents, is disgusting. It's disgusting. Because obviously you don't understand a complicated relationship like that. But other people do. And if you are one of those people who are like me, you know, educate people how it is. You know? And that's what I'm attempting to do right now, is educate how it is to be in those shoes. I don't find that so difficult to understand. I don't. You know, you can't help who your parents are. You know, you can't. But you certainly can still love them through it all. All the shit that they're dealing with. All the pain they're dealing with. You know, I firmly believe that hurt people. And I don't know what my parents, they were hurt a lot. Because a lot of the times. You know, me and my dad's relationship got really repaired when I got older. Because he didn't put his hands on me anymore. That was after I pushed him off me. After he threatened he'd punch my face in. That's when he learned how to respect me and my boundaries. Because he realized, wow, this girl blacks out. I've damaged, and there's been a lot of times where my dad has apologized for the shit he's done to me. My mom's never apologized, but my dad did. And he regretted it. So should I not love him? Should I just dismiss him? And I don't think it works that way. You know, because I would be lying to myself just to feed anger. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to feed an anger. Because I know when I get too angry, bad stuff happens. I black out. And this, like, protector comes out of me. And, like, I have no control of what, like, this protector that comes out. And I know it sounds DID. Maybe it is a little DID. I don't know. You know, I know trauma can completely fragment the mind. Okay? So. But these are my feelings. They are true. It is valid for me to miss my parents. It is valid for me to love my parents. It is okay for me to forgive my parents. And it's okay for me to speak about the abuse that I was put through by them. It's not that difficult to understand. But I understand you want to keep your narratives and they're all falling apart at the seams. I understand that. But it's like, it's based on your assumptions. It's based on what you would want to do. Without ever looking deeper into the situation and realizing that I am not you. You are not me. I will not think like you. I will not feel like you. And you will not think like me or feel like me. Everyone has different feelings. Everyone has different emotions. And everyone mourns in their own fucking way. So I'm sorry I confused you. But these are my feelings. They are completely legit. And to assume that I can't love my parents is a complete and utter stupid thing to say. Because they're in your blood. They're in your blood. You feel them still. Doesn't matter what they do. Like, kids will love their parents no matter what. Unconditionally. It's a totally natural and normal thing to love your parents. And to tell me I can't mourn for them is just downright evil and irresponsible to do to someone. That's all I have to say. Peace and Maranatha.